The Jujutsu world is on the verge of total destruction. With Gojo dead, the rough team assembled by Jujutsu High just lost their strongest fighter. Defeating Sukuna just got a whole lot tougher and is not even the end of the story. Even after they somehow take down this seemingly unstoppable warrior, they've still got to defeat Kenjaku somehow. If they don't, every innocent person in Japan will be warped and twisted into a giant funny face. Yeah, this manga's kinda weird, guys. Anyways, let's get into what options Jujutsu High has for dealing with this. We've already seen Hajime Kashimo into the ring, but the so-called God of Lightning was barely even a stopgap measure. He's already lost. Kashimo was strong enough to land some decent hits on Sukuna, but was far from strong enough to win. We're starting to see new warriors enter the fight, so let's break down how this could go. Who else do we have that could stand a chance at fighting the King of Curses? And how might they come together? Kinji Hakari is a pretty obvious pick for a new frontline fighter now that Gojo's no longer an option. This guy has infinite cursed energy in theory thanks to his domain expansion, Idle Death Gamble. He's almost entirely invulnerable while he has it active. Once he hits the jackpot, he gains unlimited cursed energy and can use a near infinite reverse curse technique to heal any injury. He's basically unkillable at that point. While the jackpot theoretically has a time limit, Hakari can keep playing Private Pure Love Train while fighting. That means that if he can keep hitting the jackpot, the unlimited cursed energy never ends and he can keep going all out. He's almost at Gojo's level with how much power he can throw around. But almost is not good enough. Not at this level. Kashimo pointed out that even reverse curse technique can be shut down with damage to the head. You need a powerful hit, enough to completely destroy the brain in one shot, since Hakari can heal without conscious thought. That's a tough feat, but it is a way to kill the unkillable Hakari. He also needs to keep his hands intact if he wants to keep activating domain expansion. A carefully timed blow could close the loop in theory, stopping his unbeatable jackpot mode. You just have to take out Hakari's hands right at the end of jackpot, stopping him from opening domain expansion before he can heal them. Although, would Sukuna fight like that? Maybe, but it wouldn't be his first choice. Sukuna did not try to use this sort of tactical approach when fighting Gojo. He usually just goes for the most brutal, direct attack he can think of. Having to consider his opponent's weaknesses is usually beneath him. The sort of approach he only bothers with when his power is limited and his foe stronger than usual. But if he worked out that was Hakari's weak spot and the delinquent was actually able to give him trouble, Sukuna would probably start fighting dirty. He's not going to just play by the rules if it means losing. Still, getting ruthless is not quite a guarantee of him winning. Hakari's aware that these kinds of targeted strikes are a weak point to his fighting style and knows how to compensate for them. We've seen him sacrifice other body parts if he needs to in order to keep fighting. We just have to hope it's enough. Now, Kinji does have a disadvantage right now. He's already had to flex his curse energy today thanks to Sukuna's assistant Uraume. Hakari had to step in to stop them from interfering in the main fight between Hajime Kashimo and Sukuna. That battle did not last long. And while he's come out smiling, defending himself against a powerful sorcerer probably taxed him at least a little bit. Since Uraume's still conscious, Hakari's going to have to keep that fight going to even reach Sukuna. Once he does though, what could he do? Hakari's a straightforward guy and would probably love to face the King of Curses in a proper one-on-one fight, both of them hitting each other as hard as they can until someone finally falls down. After Gojo's death, however, he might end up taking this more seriously. Hakari would do even better as part of a team with his fellow Jujutsu sorcerers. With his rapid healing and energy reserves, he works great as a diversion. There's few other sorcerers who could endure the amount of damage Sukuna puts out like this. If Hakari fought Sukuna directly, but just focused on keeping his defenses high rather than going for his own heavy blows, he could buy the other sorcerers plenty of time to set up a plan of their own. That would be great tactically. But it's hard to imagine Hakari, the hot-headed rebel, thinking things through like that, or letting someone else get the credit for taking down Sukuna. Then again, if any situation would be serious enough to make him put aside his pride and cooperate with other fighters, it would be this one. Gojo is dead. Japan's at risk. There are big consequences for failing here. But he has to be tempted by the idea of just going all out against Sukuna. It's the ultimate exciting challenge. Getting Hakari to stick to a plan won't be easy. Let's move to our next fighter. Yuta Okotsu is another person often brought up as a potential successor to Gojo. He is undoubtedly an extremely powerful sorcerer. After all, he was the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. He beat Suguru Geto when the guy was at his peak. That kind of success has to count for something. But the end of that story shows us the big problem with relying on him. His battle strategy focused on collaborating with the cursed spirit, Rika Orimoto, and his curse technique originated from her. But Yuta let her go at the end of JJK 0. He can't rely on the same level of power anymore. Kenjaku even outright pointed this out. He was very clear. He's not scared of Yuta because without Rika, the kid could never become as powerful as Gojo. Now that we've reached a guy who is stronger than Gojo, Yuta's seriously starting to fall behind. Still, let's take Kenjaku's words with a grain of salt. Releasing Rika has not entirely eliminated Yuta's potential as a sorcerer. Ultimately, he was the one who created Rika, the cursed spirit. Even now that she's gone, the cursed part of Rika still fights alongside Yuta. He's still capable of the same power he used to wield. But this Rika is not the same as the original. Now she's more of Yuta's curse technique rather than an independent creature, a reminder of Orimoto. At this point, he can only maintain his full connection with Rika, allowing her to properly manifest for 5 minutes. Yuta's full power is on a sharp time limit. Still, he should not be underestimated. Yuta has serious cursed energy reserves and a lot of training. He's been studying intently ever since the Night of 100 Demons, and it's paid off. Yuta is one of the few characters we've seen use reverse curse technique on someone else, healing Yuji after his heart stopped. His biggest strength is probably his amazing versatility, and that goes beyond his training. Yuta's curse technique is copy. That's what allowed him to make a new Rika after she passed on. He also has the ability to copy other people's curse techniques, using everything from curse speech to Shikigami summoning to redirecting enemy attacks through sky manipulation. Given that Jujutsu sorcerers can usually only master one curse technique, the massive number of things Yuta can do is almost without limit. It also makes him a fighter who can grow rapidly more powerful during a fight. If he can successfully copy Sukuna's curse technique, Dismantle, Yuta may be able to duplicate one of the most powerful offensive moves of any living sorcerer. There's a reason he's the guy the elders wanted on hand to execute Yuji before he becomes Sukuna. With Rika's energy reserves and the ability to duplicate techniques, there's nothing he can't do. In theory, we've already seen that Yuta's been really tempted to try and intervene on his own. He was ready to step in even before Gojo's fight ended. He's gotta be as eager as Hakari to try and fight Sukuna one-on-one, only backing down when his senior tells him to. But it's an even worse idea for Yuta to try and fight Sukuna head-on than Hakari. He can do his best work as part of a team. Combining his raw power with all the things he can do, Yuta's best used as a support fighter. While using Rika to distract Sukuna, Yuta can set up traps with sky manipulation, get a way to set up a cursed speech trick, or heal his friends. Yuta's usually calm and professional enough that it's safe to assume that he would pick this option if given a chance. But he's a pretty emotional guy at his core. Let's hope seeing Gojo die hasn't made him lose his cool. Going on an anger-fueled offensive is the exact sort of thing that could get him killed fighting Sukuna. But if Yuta's our support and Hakari's a distraction, who would we count on to land a blow that takes Sukuna out? Well, at this point, we've got a few candidates. While Yuta's power has only gone down, Maki Zanin's has only gotten stronger. Following the death of her twin sister Mai, the power of her heavenly restriction has been fully unlocked. With superhuman physical strength, we've seen her kill off an entire clan of sorcerers with no one backing her up. That's almost beyond impressive. No one else has managed to kill so many powerful fighters this quickly. Fans tend to write the last heavenly restriction warrior, Toji, off as a threat. After all, he was eventually killed by Gojo. But it's worth remembering one key point of how his abilities worked. Toji outright ended the connection between Tengen, the Star Plasma Vessels, and the Six Eyes. Master Tengen never explained how that worked exactly, but it's likely similar to how Maki was able to ignore Naoya's domain. Its guaranteed hit could not recognize Maki because she had no cursed energy. Without being able to target her, it did nothing. That might be enough to confound even Sukuna's new ultimate move. Even his cut anything ability requires his technique to note all the things it's cutting, the space and world. With no cursed energy in the spot where she existed, it's still not a valid target. Sukuna could maybe get more creative, but his first attack will probably fail. What's better, Maki is still a blind spot for Sukuna. There is no way he worked out what she's capable of. No one's told Sukuna about Toji Zanin. As far as we know, he's never had to deal with someone under heavenly restriction before, and his existence has surprised everyone who's had to deal with him so far. Gojo, Geto, Tengen, none of them had expected heavenly restriction to be this powerful. Now, Sukuna has seen her fight briefly. Maki tried to take him down right after he first possessed Megumi. That was a brief brawl, where Sukuna was distracted by his lack of curse energy, and the whole thing was interrupted by Uraume. Sukuna should still be in the dark about how her abilities work or what kind of threat she represents. He probably doesn't even consider her a threat at all. There are other sorcerers still out there, but most of them are unlikely to make a massive difference in this battle. The culling game is mostly over at this point. A lot of those newly arrived sorcerers are dead. There just aren't many powerful fighters left in play. We could see an outside figure get a moment in the spotlight. Shoko might risk taking a fatal wound to heal a fighter, for example. But who else is left that could play a significant part in fighting Sukuna? Well, there's a couple of fighters we've seen from the culling game that might be able to play a part. Fumihiko Takaba, in theory, could absolutely beat Sukuna due to his comedian curse technique. It's been stated in the past that Takaba's power is stronger than Gojo's, being able to completely reshape reality in any way he finds funny. If defeating Sukuna through slapstick humor felt like a good punchline to Takaba, he could totally do it. A rather undignified end to one of history's most powerful sorcerers. But how do you get there? How do you convince a failed comedian that this would be a funny moment for him to win? With how shocked and upset the rest of the cast are currently, Takaba's going to have a tough time coming up with a joke that would even make himself laugh. He could probably still try to land a hit, but he's got his own battle to fight if he wants to try and get involved here. He's going to have to work out how to actually be funny and make people laugh very quickly. The more promising and remaining combatant, however, has already stepped into the ring. Hirome Higuruma probably never thought he'd be trying to stop a world-ending threat, but here he is, right at Yuji's side. The lawyer is one of very few sorcerers who may have a serious chance against Sukuna in a one-on-one fight thanks to his curse technique. Deadly sentencing seems almost perfect for taking down a sorcerer who doesn't care about others. The King of Curses kills people all the time. His crimes have to be almost limitless. All Higuruma has to do is try and prove Sukuna guilty of a crime. Judge Man would confiscate his curse energy, then it's an easy fight. He should even be able to pull off his ultimate move. Confiscation can be coupled with the death penalty, giving Higuruma his own one-hit kill move, the Executioner's Sword, shutting down his opponent's curse energy use, and a weapon that can kill with a single cut? Even Sukuna can't survive that. This feels like it should be an instant win. The problem is that Sukuna's crafty, and Higuruma's domain is not perfect. He doesn't get conclusive evidence, and the defense gets a chance to argue with him. If Sukuna can make a case Judge Man accepts, sentencing would be useless. Thus, Higuruma versus Sukuna probably comes down to less of a court case and more of a philosophical argument. The King of Curses would have to find a way to argue that he's not culpable for his many atrocities, or that Judge Man doesn't have the authority to find him guilty of anything. Sentencing is a possible way to win this, but it's likely to go wrong. The most plausible option is that Sukuna will get a guilty verdict, but not land the same extreme penalties he was able to when fighting Yuji. Higuruma can still fight even without a confiscation sentence, but with his opponent not being fully restricted, it's going to be tough for him. He'll need to back up someone like Yuji who can help him face a restrained Sukuna. He won't be able to land the final killing blow. So who's even left at this point? Who could still step in here to save the day? Well, how about Megumi Fushiguro? Sukuna almost got taken down by Yuji and Maki thanks to Megumi managing to fight back and limit Sukuna's curse energy output. It's the same effect as Deadly Sentencing's confiscation, only without needing as much setup. As powerful as Sukuna is, if you take away his access to curse energy, there is very little he can do. He'd just be stuck standing there and taking hits like a chump. That would be amazing right now. If Megumi can push himself back to the surface and limit Sukuna's curse energy at the right moment, with so many fighters up against him, it could end his life very quickly. It would be a sad way for Megumi to die, but it would give him one last moment as a hero. He would die well. Unfortunately, Sukuna knows this is a possibility now. He used the bath, drowning his soul in negative energy to try and drown Megumi's soul out. Worried that wasn't enough, Sukuna killed his host's sister, Tsukumi Fushiguro. That whole encounter only happened because Sukuna wanted to try and make sure that there was no possibility of Megumi rebelling again. That hasn't completely gotten rid of Megumi's soul, but it would take something powerful to help him come back. He needs something to strengthen his will to resist. At this point, what could that be? And then finally, there's Yuji Itadori, our poor, long-suffering protagonist. He's here, and he's going to try and help. But can he? It's easy to assume that Yuji is basically out of the story at this point. Even if he is the main character, everything's against him at the moment. With Sukuna gone, Yuji's supply of curse energy went away with him. He got a few good hits in on Sukuna, but that was a one-time thing due to Megami's rebellion. There's no real reason to think that Yuji could turn the tide right now. He'd need a cursed tool or something, right? Then you add on the fact that he's going to have to fight Sukuna in Megami's body. Yuji's not going to want to risk killing his friend. Even if there's no other options, it's going to be hard to find the resolve to kill Megami. That kind of doubt is something Sukuna could easily take advantage of. At a glance, it seems like Yuji might be the worst possible fighter to go into the ring right now. But if you think about it, Yuji's got some advantages here. For a start, there's his innate supernatural abilities. Right from the beginning of the series, Gege established that Yuji's natural strength was insane. If something was able to interfere with Sukuna's curse technique, Yuji could put on a great show, and he's the one person that might give Megami the strength to fight back against Sukuna. There's no one else in Jujutsu High that Fushiguro was close with, but Yuji was his friend. They went through the culling game together. If there's anyone Megami would still try and fight back to protect, it's Yuji. But if you think about it, Yuji might be the one who ends up saving Megami here. Think back. Sukuna pulled his whole gambit by ripping off one of Yuji's fingers and force-feeding it to Megami, using it to transfer his soul. That suggests a massive weakness to his perfect new vessel though. Can't Sukuna just eat another finger and pull Sukuna out of Megami? There's no reason to believe that it could only work one time. In fact, from what we know, Yuji is perfectly suited to do this. He's one body that Sukuna never managed to gain control of, a cage that limits him. Still, he's always managed to control the curse's manifestation. He could probably force Sukuna out of Megami's body and into his own. While no one's outright explained why Yuji is so resistant to Sukuna's control, there is a very popular theory. Kenjaku likely took over Yuji's mom and conceived him specifically as a way to trap Sukuna. It makes sense. Kenjaku has planned the culling game a long time in advance. There's no way the ancient sorcerer just assumed Sukuna, the bloodthirsty guy who likes killing for fun, would just leave him in peace or honor their alliance. They're going to end up fighting eventually. Kenjaku has to have some kind of idea to control Sukuna, to take him off the board before he can disrupt the Tengen merger plan. And that hidden ace might just be Yuji Itadori. But what do you guys think? Is there anyone we've missed or even underestimated? Let us know in the comments. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.